I have been on a mission unintentionally since I was 8 years old, and that mission has been to obliterate scarcity in my life. And now, at age 26, I'm gonna tell you how I will do that in my 20s. And I don't know if it's obliterating scarcity or more so just remembering abundance. How I've known that this has been my goal since age 8. I'm saying 8 because I can't remember exactly the age. My parents would always tell me that we didn't have money for something, and I remember thinking like, "What do you mean we don't have money? Just get the money." I, I have a very vivid recollection of thinking that when my mother told me that, but it's very normal for an adult, or very customary for an adult to say that to kids, and there probably really was no money at that time. And my mother also did grow up in a lot of scarcity. My dad not so much, but my mother for sure grew up poor. So there's a lot of that going on there. Scarcity is not an uncommon thing. A lot of us get programmed with scarcity because of our parents and the lives that we live growing up. So completely expected, but something in little Dana at 8 years old knew that that wasn't supposed to be reality. Like, I just had big dreams and imaginations at age 8, and the adults around me were like, "Oh, we don't have money for that." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" So that has been my journey up until now. And everything that I have done with my life, I think, has been centered around that in one way or another. More so like running away from scarcity, but I kind of want to refocus it now to shifting on remembering abundance. There's a lot of ants out here, but let me see if I can make it through the video without being bitten. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not without being bitten. Anyways, we proceed. So, I am now on a mission to obliterate scarcity from my life. I'm in a much better position right now at 26 than I ever was at 16. But believe me when I say I've been trying to make money since I was probably that time since I was 8. Like, I was on the Google looking up how to I taught myself how to type by playing these typing games online because my mom's a secretary and she would type without looking at the keyboard, and I was like, that's so cool, I want to do that. And so I taught myself to type at around probably 7, 8, or 9, and that was the only thing I could do. So I was there looking up on the Google how to get paid typing. Yeah, I know you've done that before. I think adults have even done that before because it's like an easy thing to do. We think, okay, I can type. That must be a skill. Maybe I can get paid for it. I've been looking for that since I was 8. And then as I got older, I think I started my first blog at age, I don't know. I was in high school though, maybe 11 or 12. And I was a freelance writer because I was like, oh, I can write. I loved writing, and I liked blogging as well. So I thought I could get paid to blog, to write blogs for others online. And so I did that. I did a bunch of different things, all centered around the fact that when my parents said, "Oh, we don't have money for that," I refused to accept that as a reality, and I wanted to make sure that I would have money to do what I want to do. And so from there, I've come a very far way. I now am able to make an income for myself. I am a medical doctor, and I also perform at events as a violinist because honestly, I didn't even know it was going to end up here. I just really was excited about playing the violin, and the high school I went to had an orchestra, and so I found a roundabout way to join that program at my high school, and now it's paying dividends. So all of the skills that I developed and acquired were literally by sheer will and brute force. There was just something inside little Dana that knew that I had things to do, I had things to learn, and what I did was I followed my excitement. And that led me to violin, and eventually it also led me to medicine. I wouldn't say excitement led me to medicine, but I don't really want to get into that story in this video. Maybe that could be a whole other video. But the point is, I now have skills that can make me a lot more money than 8-year-old Dana had. obviously. I'm now an adult. So I'm way further on the journey to obliterating scarcity than I was when I was 8, but it's been since then. And I just want to reiterate, it is because of the scarcity that was instilled in me through my parents. I did not actually grow up poor. I thought I did, or I actually believed that I grew up poor until I was probably in like the end of high school. I didn't understand what it actually was like to be poor, but I think my mother still felt poor, and so it would she raised us in a way to think that we were poor. And so my parents have their own cycles of scarcity that they're still going through, and I'm trying to like break free from them. And the first moment I realized I had to break free from that was at 8, as I've said. So that's a lot of rambling, a lot of context, but I want to get into how I'm planning to do this in my 20s. I think that context was important to let you know that I am now in a place where I am not actually scarce. I've been able to use my skills and my income to make myself secure enough to not be scarce, where I'm not going to be going hungry, right? But I want a little more than that. I want to thrive, and I want some more freedom, not just lack of scarcity with money, but I want to not have scarcity with my time as well. Right now, my time is very scarce. I work a full-time job, and I'm often working on weekends, playing violin, and I'm often also, well, on weekdays, I'm sending emails, I'm studying because of the fellowship program that I'm in. So I do have a lot of time scarcity right now. I'm not very free. So scarcity for me, obliterating scarcity for me will look like building a life that allows me to have time freedom and location freedom, not being tied to a salary, not being tied to employment, and not being tied to a location. So that's what I mean by obliterating scarcity. I don't mean being able to feed myself. So if you were looking at this video, looking for help to like not, if you're actually in a not so great financial situation, you have to take this advice or take my experience into mind with your context, right? So your context will not be context. Basically, I'm saying that I'm not telling you what to do, because I can only tell you what I've done and what has worked for me and what I will continue to do. You can take from that, you can reject it, whatever it is. This is just my experience and my plan. Okay, that was probably a 7-minute long, maybe 10-minute long prayer, but probably not that long. I don't know, whatever. So I'm planning to obliterate scarcity in 3 main ways, and this is mainly monetary scarcity. I'm not going to talk about health and love in this, but I do think they're all related. So the first way is through deliberate subconscious reprogramming. And when I say deliberate subconscious reprogramming, I'm kind of talking about manifestation, but I'm not saying it in a woo-woo way, although I am very woo-woo. I mean that I'm going in deliberately with affirmations and with subliminals, and sometimes with journaling as well. I think they call it scripting or whatever. I don't do that much because it takes like effort to write. If I'm going to journal, I'm actually journaling. But subliminals and affirmations are my main way of doing that. And I find, after discovering manifestation like many years ago, I realized that manifestation is something I had been doing for a very long time, probably since I was 8. Quite a few of the things that I wanted in life and in school, I was able to get just by intending that I wanted them. And so when I discovered manifestation, I already knew that it was true. And I already knew that I just needed to make an intention, decide what I want, and then somehow, some way, it would come to me if I asked for it or if I wanted it. So I think that's the core tenet of like this step, right? You have to know that manifestation is a thing and that manifestation works and that you are manifesting just by existing. And that by reprogramming your subconscious, putting in different thoughts and beliefs in there, you might change the outcome of what you see in your outside world. And I used to take this for granted that everybody knew this to be true, because I would say this to people and I'd be confused about why they wouldn't understand. But for me, finding out about manifestation and realizing it was true was kind of like just coming home to myself. Because when somebody first put words to what manifestation was, I was like, oh, I've been doing that. I've been doing that. And so if you don't believe in manifestation, or you haven't seen how you've manifested things in your life, then it might be difficult for you to do this step. But I think even without that belief, if you go in with subliminals and you go in with affirmations, it can really change what you're seeing in your outside world. So for me right now, this looks like listening to subliminals at night, because I don't really have time during the day. I'm like interacting with patients all day. When I get home, I'm studying or doing something else. I don't really listen to subliminals there. I listen when I'm sleeping, because that seems like an easy time. Does it work? Is it placebo? Is it coincidence? I don't know. I think it's working. I sometimes will have like a dry spell and I'm like, let me make the intention to listen to some money subliminals. And then the next day I get paid. That's actually what prompted this video. Yesterday I felt like I was having a dry spell. I was like, I feel broke. Not broke. I don't know why I said that. I was like, I haven't gotten money in a while. And then today I got paid, like from my salary and from other things. Paid why? I have no idea why we were paid today, because we're supposed to be paid next week. It's not even payday. And then all of a sudden, here comes all of this. One payment, a second payment, and then salary. Is it a coincidence? Maybe. Maybe. Quite likely. Whatever. I don't care. I'm gonna keep doing it. Okay? I like subliminals. I like specifically high frequency guru subliminals. Do I think I need subliminals? Maybe not. I've manifested without subliminals before. I think maybe I just need the intention, but I like using subliminals. And the next thing would be affirmations. I really like doing affirmations, but I don't always feel like doing an active affirmation, because for me, when I do affirmations, I can immediately sense when the affirmation I'm saying is not resonant with my body. I can feel it. I can feel a little bit of tension as I realize that what I'm saying, I don't really agree with it. But that's a very powerful indicator to know when an affirmation will work. So affirmations aren't just, oh, I am cute, I'm smart, I'm funny. You could do that. You could actually just do that and repeat it over time. But I find what's most powerful about affirmations is things that sound normal to you. So in the beginning of doing an affirmation, I might notice it sounds a little bit outrageous to me. I'll tweak it a little bit to make it sound less outrageous and then keep on saying it. Or I could keep on saying the outrageous thing until it sounds normal, but not too outrageous, not too delusional. I'm not on the side of manifestation content where they talk about quantum leaping and like, I'm not into that. I'm very grounded. I'm very, what is in my reality? What do I want? I try not to have these ungrounded desires, because then that keeps me in fantasy land. I want to be here, like living this life. And when I want something, I want to see it come to me. So I try to make my affirmations be very grounded in my reality, and I love when I see them like come true for me. But the thing about affirmations and subliminals is that I think you have to be very consistent. You have to continuously be doing that reprogramming, because if you think about it, and if I think about it, I've had this like dream and desire in me since I've been 8 years old or before. But my mother has lived in scarcity for her entire life. They grew up very poor. Her mother probably also grew up very poor. Like, scarcity isn't just just like you have generational wealth, I think you have generational scarcity as well. I am at a different baseline because my mother was born into a different baseline and her mother was born into a different baseline, right? So it's a very deep wound, I would say, or it's very deep programming. And so reprogramming that, I have found, has not been a quick fix. It's been very spiralic. As I've gained new skills, as I've gained more confidence, as I've gained more capacity in my body and in my nervous system, I'm able to go deeper with my reprogramming. So I would say that I have to consistently be reprogramming, because then if I don't, you know, a scarce thought will come back, which I am not going to bash myself for having a scarce thought, because I think that's normal considering what my programming is. So I'm not just throwing in subliminals and affirmations to try to like drown out the scarce thoughts. I am trying to gently replace them so that I can see the fruit. I'm planting seeds so that I can see the fruit in my life. That's what I think of when I listen to subliminals nightly. Not every night, but most nights. And when I do affirmations, like every once in a while. I don't overkill it with affirmations. When I used to work full time in the hospital as an intern and I was like really anxious, I would have to repeat affirmations to myself to help with my anxiety while I was working at the hospital. But other than that, I don't really do rapid fire robotic affirmations for myself anymore. I'm very chill with this whole thing. So now I want to go into the next step, the next core tenet that I'll use to obliterate scarcity. And that is, like, in addition to deliberate subconscious reprogramming with subliminals and affirmations, that is nervous system work, nervous system regulation through somatic practice. And when I say somatic practice, I mean any type of practice that gets me into my body, to feel my body, to feel more pleasure, to feel maybe even a little bit of discomfort, and then to slowly digest that. Because from what I've learned in my training as a somatic coach, is that the more I slowly digest trapped emotions of like survival and scarcity, which I've either inherited from my parents or from experiences. I should have some water. Yeah, or from experiences I've had in childhood that led me to be in a state of survival. Through slowly digesting those emotions, I will get more creative energy, more life energy, more capacity, with which I can use to create income sources, create opportunities, show myself online, perform in different places. Like, the more I digest that trapped energy, is the more that's available to me to show to the world and to bring more abundance to myself. So my somatic practice looks like having a one-on-one session with my somatic therapist. So far it's been like once or twice a month, sometimes once a month, sometimes we skip a month, but I plan to consistently do that because I find that working with somebody who's just much more skilled at somatic practice after years of doing it is very helpful to help me to get into my body. And for myself, it also looks like doing some of the somatic practice that I've learned in Soma School. Soma School is this 12-week training in somatics for the female nervous system taught by Veronica of Waking Womb. I will plug the link below for that if you're interested in checking it out. I am slowly incorporating those different somatic practices into my daily life as they feel good. I'm not putting it on a checklist to say, oh, I must do 5 minutes of occipital containment every day, or I must do 20 minutes of havening at night. It's not like that. I just set the intention to be as consistent as I can, and I choose a somatic practice based on where I am in my cycle, and then I do it until I either feel good or I do it until a tough emotion comes up, and then I try to use somatics to help me through that. So I think that's a very huge part of nervous system regulation and creating a larger container, a larger, more spacious container or capacity for me to hold what I really want. And instead of it being that I'm trying to obliterate scarcity, it's more so that I'm just remembering how much space I do have. By digesting these trapped emotions that keep me in survival and scarcity, I am remembering how much space there really is. I'm remembering how much is available to me because I am a child of Mother Earth. Of course, I have a lot available to me. So somatic work is a big way I am planning to remember my abundance, not obliterate my scarcity. Remember my abundance. And then this also ties in with the third point. The third point is that on this journey, I plan to leverage my cycle, leverage my cyclical body, my cyclical nervous system. As a woman, that means that at any given point, I am in the cycle of my infradian rhythm. My infradian rhythm is my menstrual cycle. So I'm either menstrual or bleeding, or I'm follicular, or I'm ovulatory or luteal. These are the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, and they kind of align with the 4 seasons, right? Summer, fall, winter, spring. I go through that, and if you're a woman, if you're in a cyclical body, you go through that, depending on where you are in, like, we call it the womb continuum. Depending on where you are, you'll be going through that cycle monthly, every 28 to 35 days, or 21 to 35 days if you have a shorter cycle. And this is not like a bad thing. It's not something to be like, oh, woe is me. I only get 1 good week per month. You know, I can only be productive when I'm ovulatory. It's not like that. I don't view it like that at all anyways. And I'm not minimizing any issues you might have around your cycle, such as endometriosis, PMDD, or even just PMS. But I mean, PMS is still significant. Irregular cycles because of PMOS. Like, I'm not diminishing any of that. I am saying that even with that, our cycle is still this beautiful thing to come back to, which when it's running like we expect it to, is it represents a microcosm of our Earth and our universe, because we are cycling in the way that life does. So when you're ovulating, that's your summer. That's your summer week. When you're luteal, it's time to go into the descent. When you're menstrual, that's your inner winter, where you should have, or you might want to have, more time to yourself. Conserve your energy. Go down, descend, to then become rebirthed in spring, which is your follicular week to 2 weeks, right? This is, and then you go right back to summer, which is ovulation. So this is the blueprint of life. Life is not just summer all year long. Well, in Jamaica, it feels like that. I live in Jamaica, so it is summer all year long. I'm not gonna lie to you. For us, it's just wet season and dry season. Okay. For us, it's wet season and dry season. Anyway, moving on. But the nature of life is to go through cycles. And as women, we go through cycles, which means that how I'm going to show up in my job, my employed salaried job, as well as how I'm going to show up in school and in my business, my creative business on the side, that will change week to week. And I have to be okay with that. In fact, I want to leverage it. So if I know that I am most creative when I'm ovulatory, and I'll be like bursting with ideas, and I'll do even more intense exercise, maybe need a little bit less sleep, I don't know, be more social, then I can schedule more things around that time. And then when I know I'm heading towards the luteal and menstrual phase, I'll do just the bare minimum. I'll allow myself to do the bare minimum. I can do more if I need to. As you know, we are resilient. So if I have capacity to do more, I will do more. I'm not saying that when I'm menstrual, I won't work. When I'm luteal, I won't work. It's that I want to build a life that allows me to do less around those times if I need to and if I want to. It's about engineering and building a life that has that built in. Because the life I'm living right now does not have that built in. I work a job. There is no, oh yeah, when you're menstrual, let's schedule less appointments. Like that wouldn't work in this patriarchal society that we live in. We live in a patriarchal capitalist society. They're not checking for our cycles, baby. You better get to work and work every day. Do your best every day. Be efficient. I work with the government, so they're not like checking, what's a KPI? They're not checking KPIs and shit. Ooh. They're not checking KPIs and stuff. Whatever a KPI is. I think it's some productivity thing. But they do assess our productivity and our performance in the government. They do that. But I think it's worse if you're working with a private entity. Like, they want to make sure that you're making them as much money as possible, right? And that's not gonna change with the week. They might accept that, okay, we'll have a bad quarter, or we'll have a slower quarter in the beginning quarter of the year. The final quarter is usually our best. Like, that's the most of the cycling for them. And that's because of capitalism. But your cycle, your female menstrual cycle, is not taken into consideration at all. If your company does take it into consideration, then kudos to them. But otherwise, you have to either advocate for yourself or build a system for yourself. And that only comes from you learning your own menstrual cycle, learning how to pay attention to your own cues, and then honoring them. So I really believe that through my commitment to learning my cycle more, like deeply falling into my cycle more, really feeling when I'm luteal and honoring that, really feeling when I'm ovulatory and honoring that, in conjunction with somatic practice, which helps me to like digest trapped emotions, then that will make me unstoppable in business, baby. That will make me unstoppable. I don't need to worry about making next month always better than the last, because I understand, and once I am even more deeply embodied into this, I'll understand that you don't have to get much bigger every month. You don't have to have unchecked growth. And that's something I wanted to touch on. I was talking more about somatics, but I think how this ties into obliterating scarcity and like receiving more abundance is that if you're having a slow month or a dry month, like that isn't something to feel in entrepreneurship specifically. That the sun is setting. That isn't something to feel worried about or like to stress over obsessively, because we know that life has its cycles, life has its ebbs and flows. You'll have the high tide and the low tide, and being able to be in your body and have a good relationship with your business is being able to be with the high tide, have the capacity to ride it and like hold it, and to be with the low tide, knowing that the high tide is coming again next month or next whenever. So that is a very, very key like tenet of this. And so in summary, I don't know how long I've been talking for, but I think I've gotten all three of my points. And the main points were subconscious reprogramming through subliminals and affirmations. Subliminals by High Frequency Guru, would recommend, very good. And I've also found these affirmations by this girl named Sarah. I like her YouTube videos. She does robotic affirmations with like very minimal sound. It's her YouTube is Apex Mind by Sarah. So those two would recommend for subliminals and for affirmations. And then the second thing is somatic practice. The plug for that is if you want to learn more about somatics for the female nervous system, or you want to work with a somatic practitioner for the female nervous system, I will link Waking Womb with Veronica down below, as well as her practitioner directory. And the third thing is leveraging my female nervous system, my cyclicality, so that anything that comes my way, I know I've got it. There's so much trust. Me leveraging my female nervous system is my blueprint to receiving more abundance. And yeah, those are my thoughts for today. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one.